20-05, 20-1113, 20-0931, 20-1080, 20-1111, 20-1058, 20-1054, 20-1073, 20-1050, and 20-1051. 20-1051.
It has been
Black. Aye.
tonight. There will be a required
Candy Cinnabon. And they were so terrible to her about it. So much so it made my kid cry, and that's the last time she's watched City Council. So that was cute when they just ran in the pajamas. Yeah, fuck you, City Council. You made her cry because of the way you treated Candy Cinnabon. So off of that night, now they're all bending over backwards to be like, oh, Flynn, we know you didn't do this direct file to be nefarious, that we're in a budget crisis, and we're really anti-racist. Like, first of all, if you have to remind me that you aren't a racist, then you probably just did something really fucking racist. Hello? Most white people know this. Get a clue. Second, I truly thought that they were going to gut the Fair Elections Fund. I didn't think, honestly, I mean, this is another one of those times when I am pleasantly surprised, and I like being wrong. They act with impunity and have done so unchecked for so long because these hearings are boring and they all check out. I mean, you can see like we're checking our phones. Even for us, it can be a struggle to stay engaged in what's happening, but we have to, you guys. They're about to take $3 million and buy a plot of land from the over $1 million over its valued price, right? It's valued at $2 million, like $1.8 million actually, and we're buying it for $3 million. That's kind of corrupt. We're giving we're handing a nonprofit arm related to the police $1.2 million in the middle of a downturn. I wonder what we could do with that if we were to give it to Denver Homeless Out Loud, if we were to try to like even buy up some hotel space to take care of the unhoused with it being so fucking cold outside. But here we go. Here we are. They're not going to raid the free election fund, which I truly thought they were going to stop. And why? Because they're racist, and the fair election fund is how Candace Cinnabon got a toehold in and was able to raise the $150,000 necessary to win her district. and that was like 3,000 votes. So you do the math on that, each vote is pretty freaking expensive.
And was able
without
to raise
this fund,
$150,000
unless you
necessary
are
to win her district.
in the
And that
developer's
was like
pockets, you're not
3,000
going to have
votes.
enough money to
So
be able
you
to
do the
run for
math on that,
seats.
each vote is pretty
So
freaking expensive.
that's why this matters.
And without this fund,
and that's also
$50,000
why
necessary
you
to
are.
win her
But
district.
next,
And that was like 3,000 votes. So you do the math on that, each vote is pretty freaking expensive.
That's why this
And
matters.
without this
Comments.
fund,
Can you end with your best experience? But next,
that was like
you gotta say.
$3,000. So you do the math on that.
Everybody,
each
you
vote
met
is
Jeremiah
pretty
Elliott?
expensive.
Saying about her his name went on twice.
Can you
and he's got things to say. Brilliant things. I think my favorite tonight so far has been.
So you do the math on
It's
that.
hard to read if you have to slow down. It's hard to
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
I definitely have some opinions on the Allied security contract. I think that among other events, the recent events that recently occurred with security guards in Denver, I think it's underscored the importance of proper training for armed security guards. The majority of Colorado, you need zero training or licensing to be an armed security guard, and what little training and licensing that they do for exercising licenses inside Denver is disgusting. That's why we have undertrained individuals in our police force and in the armed security function of that. So we definitely need more training when it comes to security inside of Denver and inside Colorado as a greater whole. For one, we need on a state level licensing for armed security.
Now, you're not just throwing shade on that person at 9 News when you say this, right?
No, I think that the actions of the individual of the security guard acting was in self-defense. So I'm not throwing shade to him, but I think in light of those events, it does bring attention to the fact that security guards as a whole inside of Colorado and inside of Denver don't have the necessary training that they need.
And you know this because you worked as a security guard.
Yes, I have worked as an armed security guard inside Colorado.
And so, and I say this only because if you follow our boyfriend, he has words, he misspells words, but he uses them still. And has mentioned that you worked in this capacity for only a week and did not have a license to be an armed security guard. So is there such thing as a license to be an armed security guard? And do you need one?
In 3 counties inside of Colorado, there is a license that is required to do armed security. But generally speaking, for the state of Colorado, you aren't required to have a license. I did participate in some training, some 16-hour course or whatever, but it's relatively minimal training. It's similar to the same training you get, the minimum amount of training you need to get a CCW in the state of Colorado. For the most part, armed security guards outside of Denver and Glendale, and I forget the 3rd county, are just individuals who are legally allowed to possess a firearm.
So it's like so it's actually kind of like Lyft, like you're more likely to get the job if you already have a car.
Yeah, you just bring your own gun kind of job.
Awesome. Yeah, there are people doing that for free. I feel like people that know that. So how do you feel about this Allied security contract? I mean, were you aware of it before all of this? I mean, because evidently you're a registered Republican.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like throwing that one out there.
Could you remind him again? Because I know some people are watching right now. Why you became a registered Republican?
I think it's important to vote in primaries. You can determine who's going to be on the other side. I think ultimately the Democrats have it's very clear which candidates they're going to elect. But I think as a registered Republican, you have a lot of leeway in primaries that can really affect the outcome.
There you go. This is a man who wants power and isn't afraid to grab for it, even if it means registering as a Republican so everyone can tear you apart in the comments for the Jeff Show. Love it. So what made you decide to become a security guard? Didn't you just, you could just be a motherfucker with a gun?
Yeah. That was it.
I mean, you could just do that without having, you could just
but
do that.
Paid you before.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just get paid to be the guy. So.
That is cool. Oh my God. If y'all have any questions, go ahead and throw them out here. We got a few more minutes.
Yeah, I would love to field some questions.
Before this continues.
Where's Casper?
Where's Casper? Casper didn't come here.
I know he doesn't.
No.
He knows it's called again.
Who wouldn't want to? Hate it when they have a total. Oh, here it is. Sometimes you have to get close to the enemy to know what they're doing. Correct. Called counterintelligence. And that is that's Jeremiah all the way. I work for security at DIA and I wasn't licensed, but to be armed, you do have to be certified to have a license?
So that's inside of Denver. Yes, there is a license required inside of Denver.
Mhm.
But like counties like Aurora, Jefferson County, all those other counties that aren't Denver don't require you to have a license to be an armed security guard.
Awesome. So, and to clear up what we were saying a minute ago about dyslexia, we aren't specifically making fun of dyslexia. What we were saying was they were trying to pass a motion in City Council that it was National Dyslexia Month, Awareness Month. And Jeremiah made the point that, well, it's dyslexia makes it hard to read, but it's even harder to read if you've been shot to death by the police. And that seems to be a valid point. So we feel like it's important, but maybe there are other things we could be talking about right now, like the homeless people dying in the street and the need to defund the police in order to kill maybe just a fewer.
I think what you're trying to say was it was so easy for City Council to point out and to make us aware and recognize dyslexia. I think they're not as quick to recognize the violence by the police force here inside of Denver.
You're so good with words. You need to run for office.
Oh, I am.
One run for
It's
district date?
coming soon. Coming soon to a ballot box near you.
Yes. Do we have to? Well, we have to register red to vote for you.
Yes.
Amazing. So here's another. Why are you thinking of going red? Are you thinking of going red? I mean, I feel like you just answered that, but I'll let you
if I ran for office, I would really have to consider that if I ran for office.
I mean, that would be
That
that would really piss everybody off. Then you'd be like Candace Owens. Maybe she could throw some coin your way, support your campaign. You would make so many friends.
Blacks for Trump, right?
Black guns do matter.
They do. They're important. All gun laws are racist.
We have 3 public hearings
But not all gun
tonight.
owners are
Speakers should
racist.
begin their remarks by telling the
Just the white
council
ones.
their names and cities of residence, and if they feel comfortable doing so their home addresses. When called upon, please wait until our meeting host promotes you to speaker. When you are promoted, your screen will flash.
Why not?
and
She's
say
independent. I mean-
"Reconnecting to meeting." Please do not leave the meeting. You will be reconnected and will need to turn on your camera if you have one and your microphone. If you are signed up to answer questions only, state your name and note that you are available for questions of council. Speakers will have 3 minutes. There will be no yielding of time. You will see your time flash on the screen when you have 30 seconds left. Speakers must stay on the topic of the hearing and must direct their comments to council members. Please refrain from profane or obscene speech. Direct your comments to council as a whole, and please refrain from individual or personal attacks.
Quit saying that, because I haven't
Councilmember
heard it. I don't have
Torres,
to
will you
abide by it,
please
right?
put Council Bill 929 on the floor for passage?
If I don't know the rule, I can break it.
Ignorance to the law is.
It's bliss.
I don't think that's how the rest of that goes.
Council Bill 20-929
Be careful to
be
count a coffee
placed
mug
upon
somewhere.
final consideration and do pass.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded by Councilman Flynn. The required public hearing for Council Bill 20-0929 is open. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. Scott Robinson with Community Planning and Development. This is a request to rezone 1290 William Street from GMU 20 U03 to PUD.
See, again, they do this shit
number
first,
23.
hoping we'll drop off. Nope.
The property is located in Council District 10 in the Cheeseman Park neighborhood. Is at the southeast corner of William Street and 13th Avenue, just on the north side of Cheeseman Park. The property is about 17,000 square feet and is the home of the Tiered McFarland House. The request, as I said, is to rezone from GMU 20 U03, which is general
This is
urban
fun. I got my
neighborhood
election night
context,
shirt.
multi-unit residential zoning with a
And I'll wear that too
20-story
if you run for
maximum height.
office.
And the U03 is the historic
Amazing.
structure use overlay, which allows
Imagine.
additional non-residential uses
Make anal great
of
again. Someone's got it.
an art studio, a bed and breakfast, and non-medical offices in historic structures. The request is to rezone, as I said, to PUD G23, which is a form of custom zoning. So I'll go into more detail in what's in that in a minute. The applicants are requesting to rezone the property to allow for construction of a new annex building and allow for more diversity of uses. As I mentioned, the property is home to the Tiered McFarland House, which is a Denver landmark built in 1899 and landmarked in 1972. You can see the Tears McFarland House is in the center of the property there, and then in the bottom right, the southeast corner of the property is what's called the Annex Building. It was built around 1980 and is not.
I'm not gonna lie, y'all. This is the worst. This is the time to play Candy Crush.
The applicants would like to
To
replace.
Oh no.
You can see the existing zoning. Properties to the west are the same GMU 20 U03. To the north is GMU 3. So three-story zoning. To the east is another PUD and custom zoning. And then to the south is open space zoning for the park.
I'm glad that landed because he actually did that. He's like, well, you didn't, but you didn't put it over here. So how was I supposed to know?
Mostly surrounded by multi-unit residential and single-unit residential with a variety of mixed use and commercial.
No, there's no direct filing in the Fleming household.
Try to sneak it past city council.
No, right? You would think if my husband cannot marry anyone on city council, military training, and on a nuclear submarine, no less.
Center photos,
So the fun thing about submariners is that everything is super duper high stakes. Like take all the pressure anyone in the military and like amp it. If like the reactor has to be at like 98.6.
And it's now before you. In your packet, you had 2 letters of support from registered neighborhood organizations, and then 124 letters of support from individuals, and 136
Kate
letters
says,
of
hey,
opposition.
she can't wait to hear what you have to say about the Allied contract.
In order to approve a rezoning, the city must find that these 5 criteria are met. Then there are additional criteria.
Probably figure it out as it flies out of his mouth.
4 PUDs that will go into
maybe 3 things I say.
5. We'll start with the regular 5. First criterion is consistency with adopted plans. There are 3 plans that apply to this property. The first is Comprehensive Plan 2040. As described in staff report, staff has found the proposed rezoning consistent with multiple strategies from Comp Plan 2040 across several different vision elements. Most of these are related to
I think this will make it down tonight.
providing quality infill and mixed-use development, and also
everyone's just now figuring out that the Allied security contract didn't pass.
In terms of equity, staff has found
they thought the vote already happened. That's why people dropped out. Like, no, it ain't happened yet. That was voting on an amendment to make it bigger, to amend it from $4 million to $5.5 million. The actual vote comes up later. Oh Lord.
And in terms of climate change, staff finds the proposed
when you walk out the door, look right and give a big wave.
The environmentally resilient vision element, relating to infill and mixed-use development.
They're down the
reducing
street.
need
They're friendlies,
for,
but
people to travel to get to services. So staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with Comprehensive Plan 2040. The next plan is Blueprint Denver from 2019. The future neighborhood context designation for this property is general urban, which calls for generally multi-unit residential with
that's how you know
commercial
a
and
developer's
mixed-use
own the city.
embedded
This
in
is
the
all we talk about in
residential
city
neighborhoods.
council. Like the one day we found the pickleball court.
Proposal and commercial should be in a variety of building forms,
That
including,
unhoused people can't
residential building
afford,
forms such as this.
and white people don't want to live near.
The future place designation is high residential, which again calls for predominantly residential, but commercial uses should be interspersed throughout, which is appropriate in this location. 13th
I know
Avenue
that door is
is
the worst.
designated as residential arterial street, which again calls for primarily residential, but also may include a variety of other uses, including small retail nodes. The growth strategy designation is all other areas of the city, which is intended to accommodate 10% of new jobs and 20% of new housing by 2040. And then Blueprint Denver also includes additional strategies and recommendations that apply here, including multiple strategies about historic preservation. So the PUD would help preserve the existing Tears McFarland House and help with adaptive reuse so that it can be continued to be used and preserved going into the future. So there are multiple strategies that the proposed PUD is consistent with along those lines. And then Blueprint Denver also includes recommendations around using custom zoning such as PUDs, and says they generally should not be used except where there are extraordinary circumstances. So staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with Blueprint Denver. The third plan is the recently adopted East Central Area Plan. It has the same context and place designation as Blueprint Denver, general urban high residential, and those definitions are consistent. And as I just went over, the proposed PUD is consistent with those designations. The Central Area Plan also includes additional recommendations around historic preservation, including recommendations that to facilitate adaptive reuse, allowing a broader range of uses, including commercial uses, can be appropriate, which is the situation in this case, by allowing a broader range of uses through this PUD that will help preserve and adaptively reuse the Tears McFarland House. So staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the East Central Area Plan and finds the first criterion met. The second criterion is uniformity of district regulations. Staff finds the proposed rezoning would result in the uniform application of the custom zone district at this location. The third criterion is to further the public health, safety, and general welfare of the city. Staff finds the proposed rezoning would do so by implementing the city's adopted plans and promoting historic preservation, as I described. The fourth criterion is justifying circumstances. Staff finds rezoning would do so by implementing the city's justified by changing conditions in the area. There has been some new development in the surrounding blocks, increasing the population, increasing the number of people in need of services, so allowing a broader range of services here is appropriate, and then also changes on the property. The annex building is fairly old at this point, and the existing zoning wouldn't let redevelopment of that building, so a change in zoning is needed to allow for the reinvestment in the property that is needed. The fifth criterion is consistency with neighborhood context, zone district purpose and intent. The proposed rezoning would allow development consistent with the general urban neighborhood context, which again is the base zone district of the PUD. And then for purpose and intent, the PUD has its own specific criteria that I'll go into now. So PUD criteria, there are 5 of them. The first is that the PUD district is consistent with the intent and purpose of districts as described in the zoning code. Staff found that is the case because the customized zoning here is necessary to promote the historic preservation of the existing historic structure, the Tears McFarland House. To do so with a
That's correct, James. They do not give a shit about our input.
Waivers from a standard zone district. So in this case, PUD is appropriate. It would allow for diversification in the use of land by allowing more uses at this location, while also maintaining a development pattern that is compatible with the established neighborhood in character and design. The second criterion is that the PUD complies with the technical standards and criteria of the Denver zoning code, which staff has found that it does. The third criterion is that the development is not feasible under any other zone district and would require an unreasonable number of variances or waivers and conditions, which, as I just described, staff has found is the case.
There are 2 submitted comments in favor of the bill and 1 submitted comment in opposition of the application. All members of council that are present have certified that they have read each of the submitted written comments. Do any members need more time in order to read all of the written testimony that was submitted? Seeing no hands raised, Council Secretary, let the record reflect that all written testimony in favor and in opposition of Council Bill 929 have been read by each member of council, and all written testimony will be submitted to the official record of the hearing. Tonight, we have 22 individuals signed up to speak this evening. Budget and another hearing. Others have said before, if you could keep your comments to a minimum. Up is Bruce O'Donnell.
Bruce O'Donnell, 386 Emerson Street in Denver, and as identified in CPD staff rezoning. It's consistent with and supported by and implements many goals of the city's adopted plans, including Comp Plan 2040, Blueprint Denver, and the Capitol Hill Cheeseman Park Neighborhood Plan. And more recently, the East Central Area Plan has been adopted. And this specifically is an implementation step of the East Central Area Plan, which wants to facilitate compatible infill development and facilitate adaptive reuse of historic structures by allowing a broader range of uses, including compatible commercial uses and appropriate additions.
It's not. We're a third world
Extensive
country.
community outreach over more than 2 years has taken place to garner support and get neighborhood input on the result of this, which has included focus groups, surveys, open houses, and numerous meetings. And this effort culminated in our executing a good neighbor agreement with our immediate neighbors on the HOAs of both next UD and addresses with all this being said, able to answer any questions that council have any. Thank you for your time.
It really is. It's so sweet. Thank you
Next
for
up, we have
amplifying my
Andrew
voice,
Rowe.
baby.
Well, thank you, Madam President. My name is Andrew Rogge, and I live at 1530 Detroit Street. I've been a Chun board member since 2017, and I'm also a resident of the South City Park neighborhood. Professionally, I work as a senior planner for the city of Sheridan in Arapahoe County, so planning issues are very important to me. As a planner, I'm also aware of both the opportunities and challenges presented by writing a customized PUD document. So I would like to thank Scott Robinson with CPD for his time and knowledge in helping us create ours. I remember back in 2017, I attended my first board meeting and just remember being so impressed with the Tiers McFarland Mansion, but then also realizing over the past 3 years how much work it truly needs in order to become a community gathering hub once again. During my time on the board, Chun has engaged in extraordinary outreach efforts to both invite community feedback and then eventually to communicate our vision and really the neighborhood's vision for the Tiers back to the neighborhood. This evening, I would like to touch on some of the key events and milestones that Chun reached in its community engagement efforts. These include 3 community focus groups, which we held in fall of 2017, and where we obtained specific input on uses from over 50 participants. We also held annual updates at Chun's membership meetings over the past 3 years. In the summer of 2019, we conducted surveys directly with park users and collected over 125 responses. The project has also been featured in multiple articles in Life on Capitol Hill and other local publications. Chun has also conducted targeted Facebook posts linked to our project website, which have garnered thousands of unique impressions. We've also obtained support letters from Denver nonprofit institutions such as PFLAG, which was a former tenant of the Tiers, and Historic Denver, which holds a facade easement on our building. And finally, and something I'm most proud of, we gathered over 100 individual letters of support for the project. So to conclude, I believe that Chun has truly went above and beyond in communicating our plans for the future of the Tiers McFarland Mansion, and I enthusiastically urge that City Council approve the 1290 Williams Street PUD. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jesse Paris.
Good evening, members of council.
I love
those that's watching at home. My name is Jesse Rashawn Paris, and I'm representing for Denver Homicide Loud, Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Commitment for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado and Mile High News. And I will be your next mayor in 2023.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I am neither for or against this rezoning. I just wanted to know what the 136 letters of opposition was all about. And Andrew just said that Chun had reached out to several people in the community and did plenty of outreach. And that shows some kind of due diligence on his part. But I wanted to know what the 136 letters of opposition were about. And I'm losing my train. Yeah, I would really like to know that and why.
Come on, Mayor.
So much opposition against this PUD rezoning. If somebody could please answer those questions, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Next up, we have Sandra Goldhaber.
Anyone know where I can find a handmade cowboy hat?
Well, I mean, you have my beach hat, but not a handmade cowboy hat.
Sandra.
What?
I'm just looking for one.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, so you want the real? Do you want,
Can you hear me? Okay.
A proper hat?
I'm Sandra Goldhaber. Thanks for the
We can
opportunity
arrange that.
to speak with you tonight. I live at
That's
763 Ray Street on the south end of Cheeseman Park. And I'm speaking to you today in support of the rezoning of the Tiers house at 190 Williams Street.
Oh my God.
763
And then Joey
Ray
can put, we
is
can
my
just get a
second
nice, good
100-year-old
picture next to
home
each other, and Joey can put the hats
on the Cheeseman perimeter, and I also own 2 condos right near the park. I'm invested this both
I
financially
just don't
and
want to make it irrelevant by
emotionally
doing all the work.
in this beautiful
Well,
neighborhood.
I appreciate him keeping me.
I walk the park every day.
Always keeping me up.
I
in the
became
hashtags.
imprinted on the
I mean,
park
you are more likely to be
in
office
the
in
1977-79
he is.
era.
You've made fewer
When I
enemies.
actually worked in the mansion,
I mean, you went out there
working for,
trying to
at
make
the
enemies,
time,
which is
Denver
what's
Social
surprising.
Services,
Well, I wasn't
now
out there trying
Denver
to make
Human
friends. That's for
Services.
fucking sure.
And my office was on the
I don't know.
second
There's some
floor, and
people
my
going to
little desk
protests, looking for
overlooked
love
the
in all the wrong
park.
places.
So
What's that one gentleman
I
that
always
went
wanted to
from
be able to
Daiquiris?
move back, and
Really?
finally achieved it.
I'm not much of a drinker, but
So
I
you
heard
can
the
imagine my
daiquiri,
dismay when I had the chance to tour the mansion in early
Who could say
2020
no to
and
that?
saw
You and my
the
husband have
chipping
that
cane
count.
on the veranda, the squeaking stairs, all the deferred maintenance that a nonprofit like Chun could never afford to accomplish on their own I think any of you who live in or have owned an old house know that it can be a black hole. As a stakeholder of historic preservation, I support the rezoning for the following two reasons. One is historic preservation. The partnership with City Street, which you'll hear more about, will both preserve the property and protect the low-profile nature of any structures on it, including the remodeled annex, while improving the interior deferred maintenance. Second, that's really important to me is safety in the park. The remodeling of the annex and the restoration of the cafe, which existed in the annex in the 1980s,
this is what every week is.
will increase the eyes on the park.
Rezoning on top of
it will improve the community gathering space, as well as provide an attractive venue for adults to have a coffee.
I don't think it's
while their kids play on the patio, maybe have an ice cream,
and really
offer a place for neighbors to interact and be right there on the first floor of the park.
Maybe we can get some police reform by just sneaking it in as like a rezoning.
This walk-in facility has been shown by surveys of the neighbors to have broad support and enthusiasm. So I'm in favor of the rezoning, and I recommend the council approve the rezoning of 1298 Williams to PUDG 23. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra. Next up, we have Travis Liker.
Greetings. My name is Travis Liker, and I'm a Denver resident and current president of Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods. And I want to thank Denver City Council for convening tonight's meeting. I would also like to thank the scores of community leaders, especially the Chun board, staff, volunteers, and our partners who helped Chun get to this point. Chun is committed to preserving the past, improving the present, and planning for the future of the greater Capitol Hill community. Through smart planning, historic preservation, community investments, and programs, Chun serves as the go-to collective voice for Denver residents and our unique neighborhoods. Since 2005, we've owned the Sears McFarland House and Community Center, which is at 1290 Williams. And while the property is currently zoned for 20 stories of residential use, a large structure of this is something that we think would alter the quality and character of the neighborhood. Instead, we've proposed tonight a different course of consideration for you. The Sears McFarland House is iconic, and it's a historic landmark. So the house and mansion itself will not be touched under this rezoning proposal, with the exception of some much needed restoration and preservation. To help preserve this landmark, however, we're partnering with City Street investors to build a new single-story, neighborhood-friendly cafe to improve the overall property and add amenities that have been requested by the neighbors. Old homes, and especially older ones like this, need much-needed maintenance and updating, especially after 4 decades of deferred maintenance. The revenues collected from the cafe will keep the mansion updated, historic, and iconic. It will also allow Chun to deliver its critical neighborhood services, investments, and programs for decades to come. The proposed rezoning, along with the cafe, is intended for residents to immediately enjoy and use, whether they walk, bike, bus, run, or roll from their homes or nearby workplace. And then the mansion itself will continue to serve as a community asset, where neighbors gather, discuss issues, collaborate, and shape the future of the greater Capitol Hill community. For 3 years now, Chun has garnered feedback from residents, business owners, and stakeholders, and they've overwhelmingly voiced delight, just as they did when the cafe first opened back in the 1980s, whether they were attending a performance of the Denver Brass or joining their book club for a great conversation and thoughtful discussion. Chun understands that there's going to be opposition tonight, and we've addressed those concerns in our Good Neighbor Agreement with many of the neighbors that are surrounding the area. More than 20 commercial businesses already exist within less than a quarter of a mile from Cheeseman Park, like the Denver Botanic Gardens, but a constant presence at the north end of Cheeseman Park will enhance safety for patrons and passersby. This revitalization effort and neighborhood-friendly amenity are designed for the community to do what communities do best, and that's come together. So I encourage you to vote in favor of this rezoning application, and I'll be available for questions should they arise. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Joel Brown.
Hello, my name is Joel Brown. I live at 1801 Pennsylvania Street in Council District 10. I want to thank Councilmember Hines for his leadership and his statements tonight. The Sears McFarland House is a great historic asset on the north side of Cheeseman Park. I've visited many times. When I go to Cheeseman Park, I usually walk or bike there. And I'm excited for the future of this property. It's a really cool building that has served as a meeting space for nonprofits. And I think to have a cafe attached to it would really be a win-win for the community and the neighborhood. Just to address Jesse's concerns about the letters of opposition, from my understanding, most of the opposition was relating to parking. It was mentioned that there was 9 parking spots, and I think that those concerns have been mitigated in the good neighbor agreement. So I'll end my statements here by just saying I hope you will approve the rezoning to a PUD because it conforms to the criteria as stated. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Michelle Steed up next.
Hi, my name is Michelle Steed, and I live in the Driving Park Historic District just south of Cheeseman Park. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm speaking tonight in favor of Chun's rezoning application for 1290 Williams Street. I have spent several hours volunteering for Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods, attending meetings, participating in special events, and being engaged in my neighborhood. Throughout the years, Chun has been an invaluable part of our community and is a model registered neighborhood
friendly cafe. That means whites
promotes
only.
Inclusive culture and is working every day to make Denver a fair, equitable city.
I don't think they're going to
I've
serve
been a
fried
supporter
chicken.
and member of Chun. I've been engaged in a number of conversations about this
That's something I
property
get
for
real bent out of shape
close to a
about. I can't find
decade.
decent fried chicken here, and I'm not.
What will happen to Tears, folks will ask. It needs work and should be open to the community. Others will comment. Now Chun
Well, I
is
can't
coming to
make
City
anything-
Council to
I can't
support
fry
a
anything in that
rezoning
kitchen,
that will help
frankly. I
to
don't have
activate a
enough,
beloved community asset,
ventilation
the
system.
historic
So
Tears
smoke
McFarland House
gases.
just north of Cheeseman Park. This will bring much needed restoration and care to this architectural gem and fuel Chun's programming to our neighborhood for years to come. Chun's planned outline in this PUD aligns with the recently adopted East Central Area Plan perfectly. The East Central Area Plan calls on future development to promote preservation of historic and character-defining single-unit, multi-unit, and mixed-use buildings, and to consider individual
Well, she should be proud
landmarks,
that you're engaging
historic
with city
districts, and other
Doing your
tools
civic duty.
as appropriate. Chun's through rezoning application and plans align with this criteria. I also support this rezoning because I live near a city street investors project. The city street near Gilpin Street. I live on Gilpin Street and on 6th Avenue, and city street investors, they're good neighbors. Like we set up. Sorry, I'm nervous. I've been on this call for hours thinking about how I'm going to say this. But we've set up good neighborhood agreements, and they're good neighbors.
My neighborhood quicker, please.
Things happen in
so
the city,
excited,
and we can call on them, and
homeless guy
things are
last
addressed.
week,
And I feel safer.
I really think more
having
developers will make me
these
safer.
Businesses
And
around.
more police.
And I want you to vote in favor of this rezoning so that I can go to the north side of the park and enjoy the Tears McFarland building being updated and having a cafe.
20
Thank
seconds. 20 seconds. Hurry
Thank
up.
you, Michelle.
That's why women gotta make
Next
everything
up, we
about
have
us.
Randall
I
Lowe.
want so I can go. Please vote on this so I can go to the park. What?
Good evening. It's a great honor to speak to you after such a long time.
Oh my God.
I'm an advocate on homeless issues in the city and county, and I've been involved with Chun from the standpoint of the Denver Voice newspaper when we used to have wranglings with Chun regarding the presence of homeless people in the community. This goes back to the 1990s. I used to work with Tom Knorr, and we got to know each other on the commission. And my brother, Roger Armstrong, who used to be the executive director, and Andy Hinna, who used to do my job. I'm the groundskeeper. I'm the ghost at Chun. And I've been in that capacity for over a decade. I worked on the People's Fair back in the very beginning of the century. And I must say, this is a place which for me is hallowed ground. And when I use that word, I'm a pastor, I'm a chaplain. I mean that it is a place where people can gather together. My wild rabbits can gather together. The crows can gather together. and we can share in an environment which is holistic for us all. And I really appreciate the opportunity to at least tell you from my heart that this is everything to me. And having been on the board of CHUN and INC and executive committee of both, I have always been honored to be a part of this organization and to contribute my sweat and tears to making Tears McFarland operate. And even though we might be shabby, we are home. And that's all I can say. It means a great deal to me to make it possible for it to continue in perpetuity for as long as is possible. Thank you for your attention.
I mean,
thank you.
Benny.
Next up, we have Rachel Griffin.
Benny and the Jet. Benny.
Oh, boys.
Oh, you might have to unmute, Rachel.
Being mean.
Go ahead.
I want to say though, that is really sad that Benny died. It's just like a real shame.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my support to return the Tears McFarland House back into a vibrant community center, gathering place, and cafe. My name is Rachel Griffin. I have lived in Denver's perfect 10 Cheeseman Park neighborhood for 20 years. When I was in high school, I was on the youth advisory commission of my own local community center in Lakewood. I planned events for my peers, I hosted guest lecturers, and encouraged active youth participation in the community. And now as a parent, I began a 600-member online Capitol Hill parents group to help continue that community activism and to show my own children an example of volunteerism and community building. The goals of our group are to bring together urban dwellers who are choosing to raise children in an urban environment. We seek to cultivate community by connecting families with one another and the necessary resources to take full advantage of life in the greater Capitol Hill area. We work to lead and partner with local and state government, businesses, educational, and nonprofit organizations, and we seek to advocate for programs and policies such as strong neighborhood schools, housing and diversity, enhanced public safety, environmental quality, and expanded cultural and recreational opportunities. That said, Capitol Hill's built environment and amenity infrastructure often leaves out the family demographic. It is often a cycle of limited family amenities, leading to few true community spaces for them due to our invisibility. People often believe that Capitol Hill has fewer kids than it really does, because honestly, there are very few places to gather. We truly appreciate the Carla Madison Rec Center, Congress Park Pool, Cheeseman Park, City Park Playgrounds, and more. But we are still lacking for welcoming indoor free spaces to gather and build community. If council approves this rezoning request, our group looks forward to using the revitalized gathering spaces, the cafe, and resurrected community center at the preserved landmark known as the Tears McFarland House to host Capitol Hill parents events, build engagement with all types of families, encourage youth participation in the community, and help CHUN continue to further the mission. We look forward to turning our online group into an active force in the neighborhood by taking full advantage of the introduction of free and accessible meeting space. We look forward to further engaging Capitol Hill residents, no matter what they do for a living, what gender they are.
I stayed on with Carrie Joy until almost 9 o'clock. She was like, I'm about to tap out.
Or what,
and that was when,
or what they look like. So we urge you to
an hour-long discussion about a pickleball court at a proposed site came on. And she was like, "What the?
Thank you, Rachel." Bill DeMaio is next.
Then the audience woke up as the hashtag pickleball started bringing people.
Yes, thank you. My name is Bill DeMaio, and I live at 1880 Little Raven Street.
What they discussed 5 months into a pandemic with homelessness
for
on the
about 10
rise.
plus years. And I was involved in the repairs and maintenance.
Well, they were worried about the decibel level
during that time, and
has this been tested anywhere? Do we have an idea what the
average part of that
sound level of the pickleball court?
The time that I found there was that every time we undertook a project
white people will be on it, not black people sitting in. That's what you want.
Any kind of repair,
that was their proposed
into much more expensive
shared
than
space.
Obviously CHUN could deal with. So when we took the opportunity to partner ourselves
that
with
not white and that's
City Street investors,
I am white.
we found that there was a partnership
So white?
that created
And no one
this
told
wonderful experience to turn this property back into the community center that it really wants to be.
Maybe the world doesn't see it that way.
Maybe in those
I hope
moments,
that you
one
will
side cancels
support
out the other.
the
And it's like,
rezoning
thou
to
shalt not
allow
kill
this
thy
property
brother.
to
It's
be
like protects you.
to continue
It's the
to
coping mechanism. It's how you survive.
maintain its role in the neighborhood, in the Cheeseman Park neighborhood. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
I mean, thank you. We have
So like
Kevin
pretentious
Kelly.
white. I mean, you gotta Google it to understand the thing. When you see every photo,
Greetings,
every
Denver
video-
City Council. My name is Kevin Kelly, and I live in the East Cheeseman Park neighborhood at 12th and Vine. I was born in Denver, and my family has made Denver home for 6 generations. I'm a frequent volunteer for Historic Denver, and I've also served on the board of Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods for more than 4 years,
who can't move very
and
quickly.
co-chair our History Matters Committee.
We're-
Since I joined
No.
Chun, the organization has made significant strides
People with
to
mobility
improve its financial
constraints,
health, support the community,
Mm-hmm.
advance critical issues at the city level, and bring the community
became popular
together.
in retirement
Tonight we are here to
communities in
talk
Arizona,
about Chun's
in Mexico,
rezoning
United States.
for 1290 Williams Street. As co-chair of one of our enduring committees, I am passionate about preserving historic properties and activating them in creative ways. The rezoning application being considered by council tonight just does just that.
It really is.
It will create certainty
He's the
around the
biggest
future
asshole, and you gotta
uses
love
of
it.
the property, office space, community meeting space, and added amenities like the cafe for the
Build
neighborhood.
a platform.
The landmark
Big things coming
mansion
soon.
will be
There you go.
preserved for future
Run for
generations of
office,
Denverites,
Get your
and it will receive
MMA
the much
license.
needed maintenance it has
Oh,
required
I
for
don't- I don't need
decades.
a license to be that man.
Chun has engaged in community
Maybe not.
outreach efforts,
It shouldn't be
including
legal. It
neighborhood
would be so
surveys and focus
uneven.
groups. The levels of
Meanwhile, all they
outreach
can
and
do is post
engagement
this
are
video
extraordinary,
over and over again.
and we value the neighborhood feedback we have received
Did you know we got
over the
fans?
past
I
3
know.
years.
And I'm
Finally,
sometimes I worry that
preserving
no one's listening to
historic
me.
architectural assets is an essential
Comments, yeah.
is essential to maintaining neighborhood character and enduring legacy. Chun was an integral to the efforts to preserve Tammany Hall and recently endorsed the restoration and reuse of the former Cathedral Hill High School at 18th and Grant Street. We are excited to take our great work in these projects and apply it to our new
What was
home.
that one?
Thus, the request for rezoning
Whoa!
is
I didn't know
consistent with and implements
Nice.
recommendations in
Sounds about
Comprehensive
right. Thank you,
Plan
Eileen.
2040, Blueprint Denver, the Capitol Hill Cheeseman Park Neighborhood Plan, and the 2020 East Central Area Plan.
He needs a podcast.
I ask
reading.
Denver City Council
Spend time stories.
to approve this application, and thank you for
And
your
then
time.
One tone.
Thank you. We have Vicky Berkeley up next.
Oh, God.
Hi, I'm Vicki Berkeley. I live on 9th and Logan in Capitol Hill. I'm involved with Chun as Vice President of Community Engagement. I'm a community development professional and have worked for nearly 40 years assisting residents in enhancing their neighborhoods and small communities in Colorado, as well as other
Saying
states
they
in
think
the
they can
U.S.
Smoke
And
you
in
out. They can make- they can
2019,
wait you out.
I joined the
But you'll be
Chun
like, no,
board
going
and now
out.
apply my community experience to my own neighborhood, Capitol Hill. For example, with board support, I launched Chun's Seed Awards, which provide micro grants to encourage civic entrepreneurship and community engagement. In just the first year, Chun awarded 12 Seed Awards to nonprofits and individuals, providing support to projects that improve safety, promote diversity, foster environmental stewardship, and provide enrichment. Urban planners know that third places have a number of important community building attributes. The Tears McFarland House has served as a third place in Capitol Hill for decades, providing a welcoming place where everyone is treated as social equals. This third place is playing a critical role in breaking down social silos in Denver, which is so important during these times of division and fear. The Tears McFarland House serves as a place where people can gather to discuss issues impacting our city and collaborate to shape the future of Capitol Hill.
I have no idea.
Chun has supported a range of events over the years, inviting residents to get to know their neighbors and engage in projects that enhance our community. Chun has served as a neutral ground for sensitive topics, and the Tears McFarland House has provided the third place for these meetings. For a number of years, a cafe did operate at the Tears McFarland House where people could chat over coffee and a sandwich. Capitol Hill has no doubt benefited over the decades because people could utilize the Tears McFarland House as a third place where they could hold fundraising events, holiday gatherings, and a host of other activities. I'm excited about the partnership between Chun and City Street investors who have a proven track record for creating amazing third places, such as the Union Station.
Are you going to challenge
This partnership
me to a
will
fight and
only
then accuse me
improve
of
the Tears
threatening you?
McFarland House as a valuable asset and continue to provide a third place
Like, what the
that is
fuck?
open to all. I'm in favor of rezoning and request that the Denver City Council approve the rezoning of 1290 William Street to PUD G23. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you.
Jesus.
We have Peggy
You
Rath.
challenge me to a fight and then you
Thank you.
can
Can you
accuse
hear
me
me?
of threatening you. It's not a threat. It's
Thank
a
you,
promise.
Madam
If you come
President,
and meet
for
me at a
this
desired
opportunity
location
to speak to
of
you all
our
this evening.
choosing,
Again, my name is Peggy
you are going to
Randall.
walk
I
differently,
live
my
at
friend.
343 University Boulevard in Denver, and I live and walk the Country Club neighborhood. And
Yeah,
Cheeseman
you look
Park
like you
is
fucking
really one
walk
of
the
my
country
favorite
club neighborhood.
destinations for inspiration and a connection to our great city. I'm speaking to you in support of the Tears McFarland Mansion as an icon and treasure to be preserved, to maintain the character of historic Capitol Hill, to live on for future generations. I believe in creating something new and then for our future,
Really
right
fucking
around
matters if we don't get systemic
spectacular
change.
historic
I know,
Cheeseman
that's true.
Park. And that is why I urge you to vote yes on the rezoning of 1290 William Street. For your time this evening.
Thank you. We've got Bruce Coggy up next. I'm sorry, Bruce, if I mispronounced your last name.
No worries. Thank you, Madam President and members of council. My name is Bruce Coy, and I'm a resident of Denver, lifelong resident who lives at 1394 Vine Street. I am the retired executive director of the Colorado Association of School Executives and a nonprofit leader in other ways as well. I'm also the author of the Colorado Guide and Colorado's Best, and appreciate Denver's history more than you can imagine. My grandparents lived at 9th and Race. My parents lived at 12th and Race. My brother lives at 14th and Franklin.
Careful.
And my wife
Joe
and I
Camp's
live at
watching
14th
this.
and Vine.
You just told him where to find
And
Joe.
we all think of Cheeseman Park as a crown jewel in Denver that needs to be preserved, and also that the youth should be open. And this project opens this up. I definitely support the rezoning for 1290 William Street. I do serve on the Chun board, and I am the co-chair of the History Matters Committee with Kevin Kelly. And I think he summed up a lot of my comments. So I'm going to zip to my bottom line so we can save you some time. This is the kind of project that creates a lasting community resource in keeping with the history of the area. It also preserves a valuable asset adjacent to the park on its northern edge. I recommend approval of the zoning request with a mindset of equity, access, and inclusion for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next up, we have Peter Wells.
Good God, come on.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking my call. I guess we all do Zooms all the time. I'm actually one of the residents that is most affected by this decision. So when you saw Scott Robinson's detail of his maps, they showed 10 townhouses. They're the Highgate townhouses that are immediately
I live in
east
one of them.
of Chun.
Is that what you're going to tell
If I went outside and made a snowball, but the snow is not good enough to make snowballs, I could probably throw a snowball and hit Chun. So we know all too well what it means from noise and all the other things, because we've heard they sponsored weddings and things of that nature. So the biggest concern from a practical perspective from neighbors, and I'm not here representing the HOA or any of the neighbors, I'm just representing myself, is the noise, the possible, we don't want a Blake Street kind of bar suddenly plopping down next to us where they're playing cornhole till midnight and playing music.
Oh my God!
They're going to be playing cornhole till midnight. These are really the problems that his community is facing right now.
Wow.
Cornhole until midnight.
I'm a Colorado native, but I lived in New York City.
She lived in New York City.
You lived in New York City for like 3 weeks. Oh, tell me about it.
Parks, and you can get a glass of wine in Central Park in New York, and it's wonderful. So the idea of being able to
fucking world does this man live in that he goes to New York and has wine in Central Park?
Or respect our privacy, but also provide a service.
Same New York, like New York City? The fuck? Is there a different Central Park that this man is drinking wine in that I don't know about?
No. These 10 townhouses weren't here.
Yeah, the fuck?
The reason they're here
Some fucking beer garden in the middle of Central Park I've never seen.
Close the high street.
You know you can't drink in parks in New York City, right?
And that rezoning allowed us to have this marvelous.
You can't even be in the parks after dusk or they'll arrest you.
We live on the park, and I think this is going to be a nice addition to exactly what we're looking for. Is a great place to live. So I'm in favor of it.
He probably has.
But I can tell you this: the developers negotiated in a good faith fashion the GNA. They really did. They came to the table, open arms, and we now have something I think we can live with. Again, can't speak for my neighbors, but I think this is a wonderful idea.
You really got to cut the cornhole out.
I hope to be able to go get a glass of wine.
I mean, you can do that in perhaps your own home.
Whatever that shit is called. I don't fucking play it.
For listening.
Thank you. We have
pickleball.
Pickleball and cornhole and like, whatever the fuck you're doing.
All these white people games white people play.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Charles Nussbaum. Thanks so much for letting me speak in support of the zoning change. I live in the 1400 block of Detroit. I've been in Congress Park for 20 years. My two teens are now East Angels. But it wasn't that long ago that we used to ride bikes over to the playground at Cheeseman and also to the special CSO concerts. It would have really been nice to stop along the way to or from and get a snack at Tears McFarland. I think this is going to be an amazing game changer for so many people that are walking, riding, rolling, biking, anything. To and from the park, to be able to meet with your friends, neighbors, colleagues, and talk about anything or have a small community meeting. Many of you used to go to the youth fair, and that's how Chun derived most of its income.
It's like we just can't get.
Well, that's gone. We've gone to other fundraising efforts, and this is going to be an incredible partnership with amazing placemakers that we have to be proud of here in the city.
I'm like, about free pizza and t-shirts.
I really want to make it special for everybody, and minimize any controversy, and minimize the noise, minimize the parking infringement on the neighbors. And I think that it's critical to Chun's mission to be able to share in the income from such a cafe in order to provide these critical services that have never been
my first job
more
in Tokyo,
pertinent.
I made $50,000.
So many people need their voices heard.
Which translates after taxes to about $19,000
advocacy and support is critical.
I mean, here that's
so many,
there's way
regarding licensing,
so I only got to eat
parking, safety, density, development, traffic, transportation, historic preservation, walkability, bikeability, in general, accessibility. Just to name a few of the things that we're involved in. So we don't have to take care of historic mansion and can do that for the community while partnering with City Street. I think it's a win-win for everybody, and I appreciate all the different points of view. I'm a member of the board. I'm a past president. And I am really hoping that council will join in approving this
I know
zone
you
change.
really want to stop
And
somewhere
that
for
we can be an
snacks
example
on the way to Cheeseman
for the
fucking
rest
Park.
of the
Can
city
we talk about some
and the
serious
state
issues
and
facing our
the nation.
community?
Many heartfelt thanks for your time and consideration.
Right.
No cornholing after
Thank
8.
you. Our next speaker is James LaRue.
Why 8 though? That seems so arbitrary.
Madam President, council members, good evening. My name is James LaRue. I live
be
at
like that
1050
after
Sherman
dark
Street in
or in
Cap Hill.
public.
I've been a CHUN board member since December 2019. I even got to attend one physical meeting before the pandemic hit. For 5 years now, I've been living without a car. I walk, bike, or take mass transit everywhere, and it's really surprisingly easy in Denver. I really enjoy getting to know the neighborhoods and bike paths. I probably walk or bike around Cheeseman Park 2 or 3 times a week, often with area friends. And I'm looking forward to biking to in-person CHUN meetings in the future and continuing my conversations with people after meetings or walks over a cup of coffee. We can't have too many warm and welcoming spaces in our community, and I'm proud to be a part of making those spaces. As a longtime practitioner of community-centered planning, I was a public library director for many years. I find the vision for the future of the Tears McFarland House compelling. It contributes to a rich and engaging pedestrian-centered civic life. I've been impressed by the persistent and positive outreach of CHUN to the community, both over the past 50 years and as evidenced by our work on a good neighbor agreement around this project. So I'm in favor of the rezoning and request that the Denver City Council approve the rezoning request. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I know the work that goes into balancing the interests of community members, and I appreciate your time.
Do you? But who are the people in your neighborhood?
Debbie Young is our next speaker.
Beyond your neighborhood.
Debbie, you might have to unmute yourself.
I don't think you should mute
How's
yourself.
that?
Great, go ahead.
Great. Okay. So good evening, and I know it's getting late, so I thank you for your continued time this evening. I live in the 600 block of Milwaukee, and I am speaking in favor of the rezoning proposal this evening. When my husband and I moved here not so long ago, we chose Congress Park because of its community feel with historic homes, mature trees, parks nearby, and mostly for its walkability. We've lived off and on architecture of the historic Tears McFarland House. I love that this proposal will continue to protect that historic nature, and that the partners in CHUN and the people that are building it are committed to restoring this grand home. I love the idea of a cafe adjacent to the north end of this great park, where I will be able to sit and enjoy a coffee or a tea with people in my community. Maybe even Peter Wells wants to be there and join for a glass of wine. I also understand that it's very expensive to restore historic homes, and I love that the idea of this simple cafe will help fund the much needed work to keep this beautiful house historic and iconic. So I'm in favor of the rezoning and request that Denver City Council approve the rezoning of 1290
You must have a
William
weird
Street.
kink where you like
Thank
being
you.
hit.
I mean,
thank you. Our next
when
speaker is
no
Patricia
one knows
McHenry.
better than Black people other than cops.
Hi.
When you can't call the cops.
Thank you very much. I live
Like,
at 653 Race Street, just south of Cheeseman
You're
Park.
just throwing away that
I'm
right.
a principal with City Street Investors, and as you've heard, we're partnering with CHUN. I and my City Street partners are passionate about old buildings. But even more,
right?
bring you to Tears McFarland will be an amazing amenity to the neighbors, including me.
They market that
I
rally
would like
as
to thank the city
trying to stop
and the
people who are
neighborhood
preventing free speech
for
as one
working
of
with
these
us over
individuals.
And
I
that
urge
makes you
you
insane.
to approve this.
And it was just the counter protesters' fault. The Patriot Muster was a counter protest.
Next
to
up,
our
we have
protest.
Ian
Black
Tafoya.
Lives Matter protest has been going on long before.
Hello, Council. My name is
They are
Ian
the
Thomas
original
Savoya.
counter
I reside in
protest.
District 2,
You
but
continue
I
to protest.
formerly lived in City Park West for about 7
Y'all just
years.
don't quit.
I am a Chun member still because I work in the Capitol Hill area, and I am a former Chun board member. I am support of this project because I believe it's reasonable and in scale to bring a much-needed amenity to the community
You ever
and to
heard
save this
that
amazing historic
expression, mad as
property.
a hatter?
No, I am a historic member. I'm not speaking on their behalf tonight, but in this role, I have participated with
There
Latinos
is.
and Heritage and
And if
Conservation,
you
where they're
really
doing a
want
similar
to,
project
not,
in Houston.
not saying that you do,
to save the
judge it
original
anyway,
House of
but you
Lulac,
just
the
want to
Union
get
House.
really shit-faced.
So I think this
high
is
as a fucking
innovative.
kite.
This
There's
is
a
something
great
that's happening around the
podcast
country.
listen to called
And,
Shit
I've
Town
thrown myself a
that
birthday
talks
party
about
here on the park. It's
the mental
amazing
decline
to be able to have
of
both of those
clockmaker.
available. So I'm in support.
And
thank you,
it
guys.
wasn't until they started.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is
Our next
all he did.
speaker
This is all
is
he did was he
Joe
restored old clocks.
Bostros.
And he just went like batshit crazy real slow. But the mercury that was required to restore some of these clocks.
Good evening.
It's the same
Thank you,
element
everyone.
that
I will
would
be
drive.
extremely brief. I think the owners
playing wall ball in their tennis
decades
court.
sustainable. So as a result, it has fallen into disrepair. Chun's done a yeoman's job of really and this sort of private partnership with a nonprofit is going to allow us to bring sustainability
at 520 Marion Street, and I'm also an owner of a
Especially
small
around
business in
pickleball
South
court.
City Park. I'm speaking today in support several years ago. I responded to an invitation
Councilman Hine.
Thank you, Madam President.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Hine.
The development and the property owners that are incredibly
See,
close
no one
by.
wants to piss off the
I
property
see Chun
owners.
as a
No one wants to
model
piss off
RNO, and I'm
property
happy that they continue to
developers.
work.
Cashman?
Council Bill 929.
So let's start with the revenue. In terms of the amount of, you can see that even in okay.